Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the Syrian refugee crisis. Since the beginning of the Syrian civil war in 2011, well over 200,000 people have been killed. Now, the civil war is bad enough, but then ISIS got involved. Thousands of refugees have attempted to leave the country, prompting worldwide debate on whether to let them resettle or not. And in the light of the Paris attack, that situation has only gotten worse. Now, I've seen a lot of discussion about this on Facebook, and one thing I've determined is that there is a lot of misinformation, a lot of anger, and a whole lot of fear. So, hopefully, I can help clear some of that up for you so that you can make an informed decision. So, first, let's start with information about the refugees themselves. Over half are children, with the remaining being roughly split between men and women. And I hear a lot of people saying that the men should be staying and fighting. But it's worth noting that only about 2% of the refugees are single men of fighting age. There's also a lot of fear that resettling the refugees into America would open us up to terrorists sneaking through. Well, two issues with that. The first is that since 2011, America has resettled a total of 784,000 refugees from various countries around the world. And exactly 3 resettled refugees have been arrested for planning terrorist activities, and it is worth noting that 2 were not planning attack inside the United States, and the plans of the third were barely credible. Now, why is that? Well, that brings me to the next issue. I've heard a lot of people saying that they would only be okay with refugees coming if they were thoroughly screened. Well, the reason for that amazing track record above is that they are screened. The refugee admission process is actually the most intensive screening process for any method of entering the country. It takes years. It would be incredibly foolish for the terrorists to be trying to sneak through the toughest way to get in when it's much, much easier to just get a visitor's or a student visa. So then I hear people saying that we shouldn't be trying to house and feed a bunch of refugees until we've taken care of our homeless vets. Now, this one is a complex issue, but why does it have to be either or? I mean, we have the resources to do both, and don't let anyone fool you otherwise. The veteran homelessness problem hits especially close to home for me because what you may not know is that I am a disabled veteran. I deal with chronic pain in my feet, knee, hip, back, along with neurological issues with my hands. Now, fortunately, I'm still able to work, but it's not always fun. I'm essentially in pain 24 hours a day. Also, fortunately, we are not sitting idly by while my brothers and sisters sleep under overpasses. The Obama administration has actually reduced veteran homelessness by roughly 1/3, according to the best estimate available. Why only 1/3? Well, frankly, the same people who are saying we can't take in refugees until we take care of the vets have been voting against efforts to improve the vet situation. And it appalls me that people don't realize congressional voting records are public. You can look them up. I may actually do an episode just on that, checking out your representatives' records. Now, here is something else that a lot of people have not considered. These refugees in their homeland have essentially been presented with a choice. They can join with our enemies, or die horribly violent deaths such as beheading or being burnt alive. They have chosen instead to leave. Now that should say something right there about whether or not they're terrorists. They don't want to join ISIS. But if we send them back, their return to those original 2 options and joining, quite frankly, is probably the less painful option. Now, ISIS thrives on 2 things. The first is fear of them, and the second is fear of us. They say the West is corrupt, evil, unreasonable. We can't coexist. We must be defeated. So when you take people who have heard this and tell them, no, you can't come here, we don't want you, go home, it actually lends credibility to the ISIS propaganda. It strengthens our enemies to turn these people away. But when they come here and we bring them in, welcome them, and help them build a life that is safe from the violence that ripped them from their homes, it shows them just how wrong ISIS is, and it puts them squarely on our side. So it seems prudent to me that we should be doing everything we can to limit the number of potential recruits for these terrorists and improve our image at the same time. After all, it's pretty clear to anyone who stops to think about it that ISIS wants us to refuse refugees. Think about it this way. If ISIS wanted to use the refugee situation to spread their agents across the globe, why attack Paris when they did? Why not wait until more agents had been moved around? Then you could have a huge coordinated attack across the world. But this attack on Paris prompted efforts to close borders all over Poland, all over America, and perhaps most importantly, the attack wasn't carried out by Syrian refugees. The Syrian passport found near one of the attackers was a forgery, very likely planted by ISIS to shift the blame to the refugees. Now, why would they do that? Simple. They don't want us helping these people. ISIS wants to create a war between Islam and the rest of the world. They believe that if they can turn the rest of the world against Islam and create this religious war, they can bring about Armageddon. That's the goal, the end of the world. It's not about destroying our way of life. It's about ending the world. And they can only do that if they can get us to hate all Muslims. That is their goal. Now, if we are welcoming these people into our community, why would they want to join the terrorists that want to end the world? But if we turn them away out of hate and fear, there's a chance they may begin to think that these monsters are right. And, accepting these refugees is the American thing to do. As George Washington said, "The bosom of America is open to receive not only the opulent and respectable stranger, but the oppressed and persecuted of all nations and religions, whom we shall welcome to a participation of all our rights and privileges." Almost all of us living here today can trace our lineage back to someone who fled from violence, persecution, or poverty. It is that which makes us stronger. If we slam our borders shut out of hate and fear, it weakens us and strengthens our enemies. Guys, this is serious. We're fighting an ideological war, and ideas cannot be killed with guns and bombs. Even if we carpet bomb the entire region, it only makes things worse. You can't kill every single person that holds an idea, and if you try, you attract sympathizers. You make new enemies. We can only defeat an ideology with a better one. We need to be accepting of our enemies' enemies. If we can halt the spread of ISIS by cutting off the supply of troops, then between outside pressures and their own insanity, they'll just implode. The only way to defeat these monsters is to be better than them. We call them terrorists because they spread fear. If we give in to that fear and let it rule our decision-making processes, then they win. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, you want to yell at me, or you think that there are some issues that I missed, go ahead and like that Crazy Liberal on Facebook or subscribe to the YouTube channel.